Hello, crafters! Welcome back to my channel. Are you in need of a quick and easy, yet cute and spooky Halloween card? If so, I have just the one for you, featuring the Playful Pumpkins bundle from Concord and Ninth. So I've pulled out a couple colors here that I'm going to blend on my background, and those are Clementine, Eggplant, Midnight, and Black. And I've also pulled out the Playful Pumpkins bundle. I'll be using a couple of the stamps today from the stamp set for the pumpkin faces, as well as the Boo greeting, and I'll be using the Stitched Pumpkins dies, as well as the pumpkin toppers. So I have a piece of Concord and Ninth white cardstock and a strip of Pebble cardstock as well, and a test sample of what I blended. So I wanted to test out my blends prior to filming this video just to get an idea of what I was going to be doing. And I'm just kind of visualizing what this card could look like. So I'm planning to blend the background with those four colors and then build the pumpkins on kind of like a sidewalk using Pebble cardstock. And I want to sneak in that little Boo greeting to make it look like the pumpkins are saying it, or I guess the jack-o'-lanterns in this case. And I was also thinking about using the little Happy Halloween sentiment. At this point, I also had thought about using the enamel dots, or I guess enamel moon and stars and potentially clouds that were released with the Plain Amazing bundle, but I actually ended up not doing that. But that's also a great option for this card. I kind of regret not using it in the end. But I have a piece of cardstock here that's cut down to 3 3/4 by 5, and I have masked off the bottom about inch or so using some mint tape from scrapbook.com, since that's where I would kind of base my blend off of, or put the sidewalk down, because I really want to see that orange here, because basically I'm just trying to blend on a sunset. So I brought in some Clementine ink and really blended that on with sort of a heavy hand, or at least a little too heavy at the beginning, but worked to smooth that out. And then I've come in now with the Eggplant ink, and I'm kind of working the eggplant and the Clementine together, just trying to get a pretty good blend there. It's not perfect, but I think it looks pretty good for what I'm hoping to get here. So I pulled out some Midnight ink, and I'm blending that above the eggplant and also into it a bit. I honestly probably should have brought it down a little bit, but I wasn't really paying too much attention when I was doing this. So I'm really working those colors back and forth, trying to get them blended really well. And at this point, I pulled out Concord and Ninth black ink because I really want to darken the sky. Like I said, I'm really trying to just make a sunset blend here, but I want it to be dramatic and kind of spooky. So I'm working that black ink over top of the Midnight and kind of along the sides of the panel there, just to kind of darken things up, while also bringing in some of the colors just in case they need to be brightened up a bit. So I'm just getting a look at this here with the little piece of Pebble cardstock that I have, and I'm really liking what I've got. So I'm just going to pop that off my work surface and let that dry. And speaking of pumpkins, what better color for them than some Clementine cardstock? So I'm lining up the 3 pumpkin dies as well as the little stitched detailed portions on this Clementine cardstock, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. I do like that I use these for this card because I love the little stitched pumpkin look, but honestly, if I was going to remake it, I probably would consider doing the stamped pumpkins. I think that would also look really cute with the little faces on it, but I can always remake this card. That's a card for another day. So I'm just getting those all taped down here, and then once they're taped, I can run them through really quick. And I did have some nutmeg, I guess pumpkin stems, tops, I don't know what you want to call them, I guess stems, left over from a previous card. So I'll be using those as the little tops on these guys. And I'm just trying to plan the faces that I want to use on the pumpkins. I don't want them all to be the same, basically. But I pulled out my mini Misty that has my grip mat in it, and I'm kind of setting up a little jig here so that I can easily stamp and emboss the little faces on the pumpkins, because I really wanted to use a black embossing powder that I have from Simon Says Stamp that I absolutely love. So I just have those pumpkins in place, and I'm lining up the stamp. And the good thing about using a jig here is, like with how my pumpkin popped out, at least I can put it back and know exactly where that stamp is lined up. So that way that won't be an issue. So I'm powdering up with some anti-static powder here, and I'm going to stamp these faces with some Versamark ink. And that is the black embossing powder that I was talking about. It's from Simon Says Stamp, and I love it, and you will see why. So I'm just stamping those faces down, and I'm going to repeat that one more time on that last pumpkin there. And with those all stamped and ready, I can just pop my jig off and the pumpkins and coat them in that embossing powder. And sometimes you might see me struggle a little bit to get things off of my grip mat, but just keep in mind it's not a grip mat problem. It's my nail polish sticking to the grip mat. It can make things a little difficult at times, but it's no issue whatsoever. You just got to get a nail under there. And here are the pumpkins fully heat embossed. Their faces are kind of glossy. It's kind of hard to see here, but I will show you later in the video as well. But they're looking pretty cute. So now we can add the little pumpkin tops or stems to them. And one thing with this die set is these stems, they are unique per pumpkin. Like each pumpkin has a designated stem. You might have to look at things a little bit to try and figure it out, but they are all meant for a certain one. Like this last one here, you can kind of see that it is slanted and it looks to fit this pumpkin well. I don't really know how to describe it, but once you play around, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out if you're a little confused or anything like that. So now that I have my pumpkins ready, I'm just kind of getting an eyeball for my scene here. I like how things are looking. I like the dramatic and moody background. And here's where I can fit that little boo in. So I'm just, moving things around. And I pulled out the little sky enamel dots again. I like the idea of them, but I do like that the dies in the Plain Amazing die set are to a little bit of a bigger scale. So I chose to use those here since this was a bigger space than what the rounded arches that those little enameled shapes usually work with. So I'm just kind of getting an idea again, just moving things around, seeing what I like. And then I also decided to pull the clouds into this. So just those 3 dies are from the Plain Amazing die set. And so I ended up deciding to swap out that pebble cardstock for some cobblestone cardstock. I think this fit the scene a bit better. It was a little bit of a darker color and kind of seemed a little bit moodier. But I thought it looked a lot better than pebble here, so I went with that. And again, that is about it. I believe it's a full inch thick. And I stamped and black heat embossed the little boo, and you can see the shine on that embossing. Like, I love it. It has the juiciest shine. And then here I'm just adding a little bit of clementine ink around the pumpkin just for some extra shading. This is definitely something that you could skip if you don't feel like doing it. It's not essential, but for some reason I did it. I think it's because I was working on some pumpkin cards just before this one, so I kind of had it in my mind. But it's not essential if you don't want to do it. So with that figured out, I'm just kind of popping everything back in place and realizing that this feels pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how this is going. So I ended up die cutting the moon out of pebble, the clouds out of white cardstock, and the stars out of buttercup. And I'm just kind of fiddling around with arrangements here. I like the moon in that upper left corner, but I feel like the clouds I was kind of struggling with. I really wanted it to have that spooky Halloween night feeling, but I wasn't getting it. So I ended up pulling out the largest oval from the Plain Amazing die set because I felt like this brought the scene into a good scale. With how it was before, I felt like I had too much dead space kind of in the middle, that if I stamped that Halloween greeting, I feel like it wouldn't have taken up enough space. So I started playing around with the idea of building this in the oval, and I really liked it. I thought it brought things in really well, and it was cute. It was really, it was fun. It was a different shape. So I decided to play around with it, really see how things would look. And then I do end up die cutting it and going with it. And I'm just fiddling with the pumpkins here. I really like that tall one on the side because it looks like he's saying boo, but it's really cute. And I decided that the little cobblestone paper and needed some extra texture to kind of make it look like cement. So I put a little bit of cobblestone ink on my glass mat and picked up my little fan brush here. And I'm mixing in some water to try and get a good consistency. And I'm just gonna splatter it onto the cardstock there. I'm just trying to figure out the right amount because I want it to be pigmented, but I still want it to be loose enough so that I can splatter it. And I did notice, because I didn't, hide anything, I did get some cobblestone ink splattered on I think on one of the pumpkins and on my cardstock, but luckily that won't be a problem. So I glued that down there, making sure that I can see some of that orange because I really want to see that in the background, or at least a hint of it. And this allowed me to kind of move the scene in a way that I was sure I would get that little hint, but I mean, it's kind of hidden by the pumpkins at the same time, so it's not, earth shattering that it didn't work out. And at this point, I decided I wanted to put this on a textured background, so I was just going through my options. So I believe I had the quilted card front die, the cloudy day or cloudy double, double stripe or stitch stripe, and I can't remember what that last one was there, but I ended up narrowing it down to these two, and then I really ended up choosing the cloudy double card front die because I just loved it. I thought it was perfect. It gives the spooky vibes. And I was trying to figure out if I wanted black or navy cardstock, and I went for black on that because it was perfect. But one thing I do love about this card front die, and Concord & Ninth has another one like this, but I love that with one die you can get two different orientations. I don't like when companies make you buy like one die for landscape and one for portrait. It kind of bugs me because it's like they can be expensive. They can be $20 or $30 a card front die. And I love that Concord & Ninth designed this so that this pattern or this design can work both ways. Like, it's really good for us as the consumer, and it makes me really happy. And so I'm really happy that I can incorporate it with this card because it's perfect for it. And I did pull out my card base here because I wanted to see how much of the clouds you could see, like the white through the stitching. And you do see it quite a bit, but I don't mind it. I think it actually brings out that cloud detail a bit more. It kind of makes it seem like foggy clouds or something. I don't know. But I pulled out my mini Misty and my grip mat again so that I could build my scene on it. And I have everything placed how I want it, so I'm just starting to glue down the stars first because I know that I have those positioned in a way that I like them. So I'm just trying to make sure that I keep that where it is because I know if I knock it out of place, I'm going to spend forever trying to get it back. So I'm just gluing down those clouds now, and then I'm going to glue the moon on top of that one. But like I said, I really love how this is turning out. And another idea that I had too was I could have made the clouds out of vellum, and I think that would have been pretty cute as well. So if you make this, that's always a good idea. And then so for the pumpkins, I decided to pop the tall one up on thin foam squares to give it a bit of loft and dimension. But then the shorter pumpkin, I'm going to put half on large foam squares and then a strip or two, I believe, of cardstock there so that it's supported where it sits on top of that other pumpkin. And then I stuck that down. And then I did pop the little boo sentiment up on thick foam squares just because I really wanted that to kind of stand out. I don't know if I really accomplished it in a way that makes it stand out, but I'm happy with the dimension that it has. So I popped that off my grip mat, and then I am just trimming off that cloud that hangs over the side there. But yeah, I do love the idea of vellum clouds here because I think that would just be so fun. You can just smear some glue on the back of it, and you shouldn't be able to see the adhesive when you do it like that, or if you have one of those, I think it's like the Xyron sticker maker will make it so you don't see adhesive. But I'm putting some glue on the back of my cloudy card front panel, and I'm sticking that onto a Hero Arts Dove top folding note card. So I'm popping some foam tape on the back of that rounded oval panel there to add some dimension to this card. This is just the 3M stuff that I have in my stash, but any foam tape will work. Or if you even want to build up the dimension just by die cutting a couple more ovals, that would work as well. So I've got some glue on the back of that, and I'm going to pop it down here. At this point, I decided though it does need a little bit of shine, so I pulled out some dewdrops. And honestly, if I had some black enamel dots, I probably would have used them here as well, but I didn't, so I went with the dewdrops, and I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So I'm just gonna glue those down, and luckily this arrangement, it didn't take me too long to figure out. I really like how it kind of flows from the top to the bottom, so I'm happy with that. It's kind of the reverse of the Celebration Squad card I made, so that's kind of why I went with that. But I like the direction that it flows here. So I am going to let this dry a couple minutes before I actually show it to you, since the glue will dry underneath these dewdrops. I did have an issue with the top one where I had to replace it, so that's why it looks a little bit brighter in this picture. But I love how the dewdrops are like a nice subtle shine to this card. I love that black embossing powder, as you see here. It is honestly, it's my favorite embossing powder that I have because it just gives you the juiciest, blackest embossing. I love it. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please give me a like. And if you want to see more from me, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.